Nobody cares about the Big 12 though, because the Big 12 sucks, and like that's why people vouching for y'all. Like y'all about to start getting Notre Dame treatment. People about to stop vouching for y'all to go to the playoffs because y'all do the same thing every time y'all get in. I mean, I know OU sucks, but don't get mad about it. Now, don't throw picks because OU sucks now.
No, you can keep doing it.
You're saying the Big 12 is not good because you're an SEC fan.
No, I'm saying the Big 12 is not good because everybody knows the Big 12 sucks. The Big 12 plays no defense.
So you're saying five teams that are worth mentioning in the SEC are better than the Big 12. Let me tell you who's good in the SEC. LSU, Alabama, maybe Florida. All right, welcome back. My name is Christian Phillips, alongside me Amari and Graham Bolden. How are you doing today, Amari?
I'm doing good. How about you, Christian?
I'm good. This past weekend, we were discussing a little bit about college football, like some primetime matchups against Alabama and Georgia. What are your thoughts about that game?
Man, big Georgia fan. Obviously, I'm disappointed, but I'm not too mad about it. I mean, I know how football works, and you turn the ball over twice in the second half versus Alabama, you won't beat them ever, unless you get 3 turnovers, and you still probably won't beat them. But Stetson Bennett played pretty decent until that point, and like it was the point where all the pressure is on. It's the biggest game of his life, biggest stage he's ever been on, and the first pick, not all the way on him. He tried to force a ball. Drive a ball down the middle of the field, a little forced. The coverage was great, and our true freshman wide receiver tried to make a play and tip the ball up. They pick it off. They go score. All right, bet. That's one pick. But then you come back, you driving the field good again. You're in their territory. Third down, got the best kicker in one of the best kickers in the nation. Georgia always keeps a good kicker. Why try to force a ball when you just barely escaped the sack instead of taking off? Like he could have took off and tried to run or something and get a couple yards, but he tried to force the ball and threw it right to Alabama, and they drove and scored another touchdown after that, and that was the final score, 41-24. Like, you can't do that versus Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, he finished the night 18 of 40. 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. His QBR was 58.5, and
he missed about 2 or 3 wide open touchdowns where he just overshot the ball. Like he had a guy, and like he had, like, I know the first two he had what? He had a couple passes knocked out early, and they were short passes, so he was trying to get height on them, and he overshot guys in the end zone. Then the second one, he had true freshman Jermaine Burton streaking down the field again. Sorry for the purge going on in the background. But he had true freshman Jermaine Burton streaking down the field on a seam route, on an over route, and just overshot him again by like a yard or 2. Like, those are plays that we need. Those are throws that we need him to make versus Alabama.
Yeah, and I think something to highlight, Mac Jones on the other side. I mean, this is his first year starting for Alabama.
He played a lot last
Yeah,
year.
he replaced Tua Tagovailoa.
And the receivers he have, that will help any first-year starter.
Yeah, you can definitely see those starts last season definitely helped. I mean, he went 24 of 32 for 417 yards for 4 touchdowns against a Georgia defense that was expected to compete, toe-to-toe with Alabama.
In the grand scheme of things, he had 3 or 4 big passes that got him probably about half of that yardage. Which, hey, we play man-to-man coverage. You got good guys over there. They beat us. That is no excuse for it. Like, and that's the thing. That's the unfortunate thing about playing the defense we play. We blitz a lot. We play a lot of man-to-man. And you get receivers like Jalen Waddle and D. Smith that run 4 threes. Like, you might give up 70 yards on one play.
Yeah, Najee Harris for Alabama, the running back, he carried the ball 31 times.
Yeah.
Georgia's defensive front struggled that entire game.
Yeah, I mean, not if you watch, like, I don't know if did you watch the game? If you watched the game,
start to finish,
if you
obviously
watched,
the first half, it was very close.
Yeah,
you know,
no, it was two. It looked like 2 and 3. Even on the back end, aside from throwing 2 picks, like it looked like 2 versus 3, and like I said, the 2 picks were the determining factors in that second half where they went up and we couldn't. And like after that, all the momentum whatever momentum we had was gone.
Yeah, I think it came down to experience.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett had very limited experience. He's a JUCO transfer, first year starting for Georgia. That's big.
He was the 5th string quarterback at the beginning of camp this year.
This is your first primetime matchup, against a legitimate school. Mac Jones has all the experience, that somebody can have in their first actual year of starting.
And don't get me wrong, Kirby Smart is turning around the tide, like in recruits as far as it goes at Georgia. Like, we're starting to get these big name receivers, but we have not. One, they have not played long enough in the system. Like our best receiver Saturday was a true freshman, right? He was pretty good though. He was a true freshman, but he hasn't had that experience. Like he hasn't had that time that D. Smith and Jalen Waddle has had on the field. Like, he has to work a little bit more. And when we start getting more guys, I think like we begin to close the gap more. Like, don't get me wrong, we're pretty close to Alabama. Like, even if you watch that game, like the difference in that game is the 2 picks in the second half. Mm-hmm. But like that's just how the dice roll when we play Alabama. Like, we're always 2 steps behind them. I tweeted that like
Georgia has, a lot of potential going forward. They have a lot of young guys, especially in the backfield, at wide receiver. The defense obviously needs to get better, but that'll come with time. And Stetson Bennett, he's only a junior.
I mean, but even
more than likely he's going to come back next season.
Even if you watch our defense, like you said, the first half to the second half is way different, right? We come out first drive of the second half. We got the ball. We didn't do anything with it. Defense comes out, Alabama drives and scores. Okay, that's one thing. But then you come out and 5 plays later you throw a pick, and you put the defense back against the wall. All right, they give up a touchdown. Sudden change. That's football, right? You come out again, 3 plays later you throw a pick. Like, that's when the defense starts to break down, and not only the defense, the team starts to break down. And
he had 3. Bennett had.
Yeah,
he had 3 interceptions. That's potentially 21 points that the defense can swing. So,
and to credit the defense, it could have been way worse. They could have let them score 50 or 60.
They held them to as much as they could.
And like I said, you look at the numbers for Alabama, like, they look great. But if you look at Georgia's defense on third down in the first half and the first couple possessions of the second half, or the first possession of the second half, because obviously the second half didn't go out, the third quarter didn't go our way at all. But they know how to get off the field, and I think that's a big part of any defense, getting off the field and getting pressure. And they were getting pressure on Mac Jones, but the receivers from Alabama are so, like, seasoned that, like, if it's 3rd and 15, they would run their route, get locked down, and then just find their way back to the ball. Like, it'll be cover, come back to the ball. Like, they'll run a 30-yard route and come back and get 15 yards on first down. Mm-hmm. And that happened to us like 3 or 4 times where, like, we got pressure, we got them moving, we get them out the pocket, and our DBs, like, it's hard to guard that. It's like Madden, like when somebody runs around on you on Madden and then just finds somebody running in the middle of the field because your DBs can't cover that long.
One thing to also note, Nick Saban, the Alabama head coach, was allowed to coach on the sideline after testing positive for COVID-19 earlier in the week. Obviously, he had 3 tests come back negative, so they were assuming that it was a negative test initially. And that, I think, that's a huge contributing factor to why Alabama was so disciplined during that game. Mm-hmm. I think if he wasn't on the sideline, Georgia would have won. That's when you lose, a leadership guy like that on the sideline. It's a huge hit to the team.
Yeah, but Steve Sarkisian has been that guy at offensive coordinator for for Bama for a while, and like he went from Bama to the Falcons back to Bama, so he only got better as a coach. And I feel like with an offense coordinator like that with that much experience, no matter what, you got a fighting chance. Like it's not guaranteed that you lose, not guaranteed that you win, but it's really not guaranteed that you lose with that guy on coaching your offense and just defense just being motivated. But I don't think Nick Saban ever had corona.
Yeah, it was more than likely they were saying that it was a negative test. And the NCAA still makes you go through the 3 tests process, 24 hours between all of them. But on to the next one, number 5 ranked North Carolina fell to Florida State.
By the way, Georgia's still in the top 4, which I was very surprised by that. I thought they would have got moved to like number 7, but I think like it was 2 versus 3, and I think like the people that do the AP poll, the Associated Press, obviously understood like. It wasn't that the game wasn't the score didn't tell the story of the whole game, obviously. Like, and even if it was still only a 2-touchdown win for Alabama.
Yeah, and I mean we'll see how. I mean those are just the AP, and coaches poll. So we'll see how the College Football Playoff Committee is going to treat that one loss. Obviously, if Ohio State is undefeated or Oklahoma State is undefeated, you would expect them to jump Georgia. Yeah, at least in the initial rankings.
In the initial ranking, though, when you compare it, it's going to be like 5 games to 2 games.
Yeah.
When the CFP starts coming out.
Yeah, Oklahoma State has a better chance of jumping Georgia in the initial rankings than Ohio State does.
And Georgia's also going to have a Florida game before the CFP starts.
And they're right there at number 8. So
that will, like, if Georgia wins that Florida game, there's no undefeated team in another conference that will jump them.
Absolutely. And before we get to the North Carolina-Florida State game, you see that Notre Dame is at number 3.
I think with the way they struggled Saturday, Georgia should have stayed at 3.
What was it, 12-7?
12-7 versus Louisville.
That is a low-scoring game, especially against the Louisville team.
If we expect the Associated Press to jump anybody to 3 at the plan, trash is who? Notre Dame.
Absolutely, and I can't even believe that they are having Notre Dame in the playoffs when they're still in the same conference.
They're gonna lose. Look, this is the thing. Notre Dame is flying high because they haven't played Clemson yet.
Yeah,
they will play Clemson in the regular season and not make it to the ACC championship and get booted.
Their only impressive win this season is against USF, 52-0. They struggled against Duke their first regular season game, and Duke is absolutely horrible this year in the ACC. They even let Florida State put 26 and I'm not going to try and discredit Florida State, but
Florida State is finding their way now.
Yeah, this is a big win for them this past weekend against North Carolina.
Honestly, if they went to South Bend, the way they played in South Bend, if Notre Dame would have had to come to Tallahassee, I feel like Florida State would have won that game because they're just flat out playing way better than they played the last 3 years, like these last 2 games. They look better, and I mean. You could credit it to a quarterback change, but the defense is motivated. They had defensive ends catching pick sixes versus Sam Howell in the UNC offense.
Even when Jimbo Fisher was there, Florida State's problems were their offensive line. They could not protect the quarterback whatsoever.
But now they have a mobile quarterback.
Exactly.
So now the quarterback, like when James Blackman, he's one of my friends. He was the quarterback before. What's the kid's name? I know he's from my county. Jordan Travis. He's the starting quarterback. Now, James Blackman was the quarterback before him, and like James Blackman was a good quarterback, but if he has to move too much or it's too much pressure in front of him, he won't look good because he's not as mobile. But Jordan Travis, on the other hand, he's a shorter guy, faster guy, and he can throw. I'm not saying he's a prolific passer, but he can throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, he carried the ball 16 times for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was averaging 6.7 yards per carry. So
that's the difference in the offense.
And like you said, he's not a prolific passer. He went 8 for 19, 119 yards, but it won the game. It got it done. So
he struggled in the second half, unfortunately, but like. The defense was motivated enough to hold them off. What was it, 24-7 or 24-0?
31-28.
No, that's the final score. I'm talking about at the end of the half because they were getting blown out.
Yeah, it was 31-7. And don't get me wrong, North Carolina, they came back. Sam Howell did, pretty well in this game for 20 of 36, 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, and like I noted in the update this past weekend, I said that Sam Howell was going to have to limit turnovers.
Yeah.
If he limited them, I mean, he only had one turnover.
It was a pick six, though. But they just flat out got stopped in the first half. Like, Florida State's defense was motivated, and it was home, top 5 game. Like, obviously, like, even though they've been trashed the last 2 or 3 years, like, they're still Florida State. You still have tradition, and you still have pride. And the way the alumni has been harassing those guys, you would think they wanted to win.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been, relevant since Jameis Winston left.
Yeah. No, they won the Orange Bowl after Jameis left with Dalvin Cook, but they haven't been relevant since Dalvin Cook left.
Yeah, but, I mean, when I think of Florida State, I think of, championship contenders, especially,
they were
90s, early 2000s. They were always right there.
They were one game off from the playoffs, which was Clemson. They lost to Clemson, so.
And we're going to transition into Clemson. Clemson absolutely stomped.
I told you that would happen.
Tech.
I told you that would happen, though. Georgia Tech gave up 50 to UCF. So, like, Clemson scoring 73, not, like, surprising. What was surprising, they put a punter in at quarterback in the fourth quarter. That's very disrespectful. This dude had, like, number 48 at quarterback.
I think it's surprising that they put 73 on him. The first couple drives were competitive, back and forth first quarter. I'm like, Georgia Tech may give it, to them.
But
yeah.
Georgia Tech, look, like I said, UCF from the American Conference put up, which we respect UCF, but they lost again Saturday in a game that they should have won. But they put up 50 on Georgia Tech. So what do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to do?
Yeah, they definitely showed that they are still the top dogs on the ACC.
Yeah, in the country, and until Bama, Ohio State knocks them off.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Clemson and Alabama are virtual locks at the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So Texas A&M, obviously we've seen them play their 3-1 start. They just won 28-14 against Mississippi State. Are you surprised that they're within the top 10, although they've lost to Alabama at the beginning of the season?
Nah, not at all. I mean, they got a great head coach, national champion head coach. He's recruiting out of his mind. I mean, they got a veteran quarterback in Kellen Mond. Like,
he seems like he's been there for like 10 years.
Yeah, no, legit. What is his 3rd year starting? Like, he's like, they got the pieces. I don't think they're a contender, but they definitely are a great football team. But like I said, in the SEC, how can you be a contender when you got all these teams? Like, how can you literally have to pop out like LSU and have a unicorn year?
Yeah, I mean, what's standing in their way, since they lost to Alabama's, in the West, so is Texas A&M. So if Alabama doesn't drop 2, Texas A&M's not going to the SEC championship game. And there's a lot of teams right there. I mean, the East has Georgia.
All right, hold on.
Georgia and Florida are the top competitors. I mean, you have a sleeper in Kentucky sitting at 2-2.
South Carolina's 2-2, and they just beat Auburn.
Which
everybody's figured out the key to beating Auburn: pressure the quarterback and lock down Seth Rogers.
Yeah,
you lock down Seth, you take away everything Bo Nix looks for. He literally just won a guy national defensive player of the week just because he will not throw the ball to anybody else. And then Kentucky came and caught 2 pick sixes versus Tennessee. I don't like when stuff like that happens, or not 2 pick sixes, a pick 6 and a pick that put them at the 2-yard line. When stuff like that happens, like it's hard to lose.
Yeah, and obviously as the season progresses, we're gonna see, conference contenders, dwindle because Georgia plays Florida on November 7th. So as time progresses, we'll see. It's still Alabama's.
How do you feel about Arkansas's defense? Did you look into that Saturday? Another great week on the defensive side of the ball for Arkansas.
I've noticed that they've been competing a lot better. Obviously,
they won Saturday.
The narrative is that Auburn can never close out.
They didn't play Auburn Saturday.
No, sorry, their defense. Their defense can't
yeah.
close out. They lost to Auburn by 2 points,
but
30-28.
They should have won that game if the referees called the right call on that when he clocked the ball. That was a fumble.
It. Yeah, he dropped it.
He threw it down backwards. That was a fumble.
In Arkansas, they're going to be at Texas A&M on the 31st. So the Razorbacks, if there's a team that has surprised me with their performance, maybe not overall, but their defense has definitely competed.
Yeah. Like, but that just goes back to like what we were saying last week on the show. Like, you judge a team by the bottom of the barrel. You judge a conference by the bottom of the barrel teams, and like when you can play defense like Arkansas plays defense, they've showed it each week this season. Even when they played Georgia, yeah, Georgia overpowered them in the third quarter, but like the other 3 quarters they played great defense.
Yeah, and it seems like the SEC is actually filtered out. You know, they've just kind of switched. LSU obviously was top dog, and they're obviously going to have a down year because they've lost a lot of players to the NFL. Now Arkansas is coming up and now competing with some of the best teams in the SEC. Besides Georgia, I mean, they lost 37-10, but they're still competing with Mississippi State, Auburn, Mississippi. If this were any other year, Arkansas would be a rollover week.
Almost 0-12.
Yeah. And you even have Missouri still putting up good numbers against teams.
Mizzou hasn't, they haven't been the same since that year they almost went to the national title. But, they're just the same. They're never a bad program. I'll say it like that. Like, you never write them in for a blowout game because they can bring it any week. Mm-hmm. And they recruit the talent. They got the coaches. So,
and they have one of the toughest schedules, going down. They have Florida and Georgia back-to-back, South Carolina and Arkansas. That's a tough stretch.
Yeah, that's a nice little stretch they got on.
So I expect Missouri to – more than likely they'll finish at the bottom of the SEC this year.
Yeah. I mean, Vanderbilt's going to be the worst team in the SEC.
Yeah.
It's tough, man, because their academic scale is so rigorous. Like, getting accepted, a lot of athletes can't even recruit the guys that they need to recruit in that conference because they're brainiac school.
Missouri still has the mentality of they just want to outscore you.
Yeah.
They want these skinny, fast guys that are going to burn you up the field instead of relatively big and, physical guys. Yeah. And that's why they thrived in the Big 12. But I don't think they've really found their place in the SEC as permanent contenders.
Not yet. I remember for years Missouri used to go get all 6'5" receivers and put them out there and think they were going to beat people like that.
Yeah.
Dude, you cannot have a 6'5" receiver in your slot.
In the SEC, you got to be physical. I feel like you got to have the mentality of like a Wisconsin team in the Big Ten. You got to be able to run it down their throat. And then when you need to pass, you need a quarterback that can make smart decisions. You got to have elite wide receivers. All right, but on to the next thing. Obviously, the Big Ten is debuting their season. So Ohio State and Nebraska, who are you going to take in that one?
Ohio State. I don't know why I thought about that. Ohio State.
I'm going to think about it.
Think about Nebraska, it for what?
Nebraska their program was one of the biggest advocates for the season to start.
And that means what?
I think it's going to give them a little bit of motivation, a little chip on their shoulder. Their program was a big advocate. Their school was a big advocate, but they're like, as far as programs, every other school in the conference, every other program in the conference wanted to start. The schools voted no. I don't think they're.
It was outside of the program's control, so I don't care about Nebraska wanted to play. Ohio State wanted to play just as bad. So you can bet Ohio State is going to come out and hang up 60.
Scott Frost, the head coach of Nebraska, was more vocal about it.
Yeah, but he can be. But like I said, you can be vocal when your boss agrees with you.
Yeah,
the bosses at other schools did not agree with the head coaches.
Hey, I'm gonna say right now, I think Nebraska is going to compete with Ohio State.
I'm gonna tell you why they're not. Because I know at least 5 people from the state of Florida, like 5 kids that were in that program that left that program over this offseason. And he lost a lot more players than that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm putting it on Adrian Martinez, obviously.
Who's that?
The quarterback.
Is that Tyler Martinez's little brother? I mean, Taylor Martinez's little brother?
I'm not sure about relation there, but it always seems like they do have a quarterback with the last name Martinez. But they do have, they have Christian McCaffrey's brother.
Dylan McCaffrey? Oh, how many McCaffreys are there? Is that the one that transferred from Michigan? No, he's going to play with his dad at Northern Colorado.
Yeah, it's Christian McCaffrey's brother.
No, they got a bunch of brothers. Dylan McCaffrey.
He plays for Michigan.
He left.
He transferred?
He left the program. He opted out the season and left. His dad is the head coach at Northern Colorado, or the offensive coordinator at Northern. He has a high coaching position at Northern Colorado, so people think he's going to go there.
Huh. I didn't know he left that. I mean, I thought he was going to be
the
starter for Michigan.
No, I told you why he left. My little cousin Joe is starting at Michigan. Joe Milton. Look him up. Big 6'5", 240-pounder.
Well, all I'm saying, Adrian Martinez better not let me down. All right, I need him to throw for at least 350, four touchdowns. Obviously, he's gonna have to show out.
Hey,
limit turnovers.
350 inches, huh? He might throw 3 pigs. Hey, it's gonna be tough, man. Ohio State are dogs.
Yeah, they're obviously title contenders this season.
Who's Michigan opening up with?
So Michigan is opening it up against number 21 Minnesota, and we saw what Minnesota could do last season. I think they surprised a lot of us.
I think like years like that are once in a blue moon type of deals for schools like Minnesota. You got to show me that you're here to stay. 2-3 years max.
Yeah, and opening up against Jim Harbaugh in Michigan is definitely going to show us if Minnesota can continuously compete. But I expect that's going to be a pretty easy game for Minnesota.
For Minnesota?
Yeah.
Oh, you're just talking. But, hey, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota's defense played good because watching Joe, I want to see him be a better passer, like going through reads and finding dudes. Because when he hasn't started a game or like came in and took their start out because they had a pretty good quarterback last year. But he's taking game reps, and like all his game reps all look the same to me, kind of like he's throwing the ball as far as he can because he has a big arm and like letting dudes make a play down the field or he's running. Mm-hmm. And like I want to see him be better than just running, which he can. Like he's as big as Cam Newton. They can run that offense like that very well. They're Michigan. They got the O-line for it, but is that going to win you a conference championship? Is that going to be Ohio State? Nah. So I want to see him come out and pass the ball better. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota's defense had a pretty good game.
And that's a primetime matchup at 6:30. But outside of the Big Ten, the non-Power 5 leaders, I would say probably the two
BYU
teams
looked great Saturday.
Yeah, the two teams that probably have the higher chances of making the college football playoff, Cincinnati and SMU, play each other at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. They're both sitting at 9 and 16.
What is BYU's rank? Or are they?
BYU's number 12, Cincinnati 9, and SMU 16.
I think BYU is better than both of them.
No, I think SMU is actually. Well, I picked Cincinnati to go in only because I think they have more on defense.
They have a bigger name too.
Yeah, but I think SMU has a better offense than both of them, only because of the quarterback transfer from Texas.
I think BYU has the best chance. I've watched all of them. I've seen like from last year to this year, all of them been good. But I think watching BYU Saturday, they just look great, man. Like I don't know. But like you said, that's Cincinnati and SMU game gonna knock one of them out of contention automatically. Mm-hmm. Like when you play on that scale, one loss automatically kills your contention because they're gonna be like, oh, if you lose the teams on your level, what you think gonna happen with the teams on the upper level? Like that's the mindset. So
yeah, and Cincinnati definitely has a schedule that sets them up a lot better too. Obviously, if they win against SMU, their toughest game for the remainder of the season is SMU or Memphis. And Memphis does compete in the AAC, so
no. Memphis was getting blown out Saturday and came back and beat UCF by 1 point. So they definitely got some fight in them.
Absolutely, it's definitely the Bearcats game to win this upcoming Saturday. But that's going to do it for us today. I'm Christian Phillips, and that's Amari and Graham Bolden, and that's what's happening around college football.